Xabi Alonso and Andoni Iraola are currently the two most talked about managers pertaining to the empty hot seat at Chelsea to be the next manager. Xabi Alonso in particular seems to be the name on the tip of most fans' tongues. But if you were to come in out of the current squad, who stays and who goes? Welcome, Blue Believers, to another episode of the Stamford Sync, where we are syncing up with everything Chelsea FC. And today, that means essentially we're going to play a game of keep, loan or sell with the current Chelsea first team, but from the perspective of Xabi Alonso being the manager. And let's get straight into it. So starting with Robert Sanchez, and this is already a complicated one, a difficult one for me in particular. Of the two goalkeepers we've seen between the sticks this season, Robert Sanchez, inarguably, has had the better season, but does that necessarily mean that he's going to fit Xabi Alonso's system? So look, for me personally, I think it's basically a no, but I'm going to say keep at this point because I think it's unlikely. As much as I think we should sell both of our goalkeepers, the more I think about it, the most unlikely it seems. I think Mike Penders is probably going to come in. I think he probably fits the way that Xabi Alonso would like to play in general. It's not necessarily all about passing out from the back like it was with Liam Rosinia, but he does like calm, controlled possession at the back. That is not exactly Robert Sanchez's forte, but I've kind of a spoiler alert for the next one. But I just think that out of the two, if we are going to keep one of them, Robert Sanchez makes the most sense. If we're not going to go in for another goalkeeper, but I do think we should go in for another goalkeeper. Philip Jorgensen just gets sold, and it's a weird one there because he probably actually suits the way that Xabi Alonso would like to play football more, but he's just not good enough, and we can't rely on him to be the first team goalkeeper at Chelsea next season. He needs to go and play at a team with less pressure and get more game time. I think the massive thing for Philip Jorgensen this season has been he's just absolutely not been getting enough game time, and maybe he'd have been better, but we basically play him 9 times and then throw him into the Champions League under those kind of crazy conditions, and he gets absolutely pasted, which is going to knock his confidence. And after the whole walking out, not saying thank you to the fans and stuff like that, it just feels like if only one of the goalkeepers is going to go, I think it's Philip Jorgensen, and that makes the most sense to me, so he gets sold. Teddy Sharmanlow and Gaga Slanina, I'll kind of unbundle both of these together because we haven't seen either of them in the sticks. I think it's possible one of them gets loaned and one of them stays. You kind of need 3 goalkeepers, don't you? If I'm honest, I would much rather be in a place where our third goalkeeper is an older, experienced head. But with Bluco in tow, that's probably not going to happen, is it? So for both of them, I would probably say loan, but that is interchangeable. I don't see anyone. Gaga Slanina maybe has got a little bit more chops because he's a really, really big, tall guy. But other than that, I don't really see a huge amount of difference between the two of them. So for Teddy and Gaga, both of them on the loan list for me. And I think Xabi Alonso. Marc Cucurella, for me, is an absolute stay. I think he fits so well in a few different positions in Xabi Alonso's kind of system. Whether it be 3 at the back or not, Marc Cucurella can play at left back. He can play left wing back. He can play at that left centre back role as well. Now, the interesting thing here, if we do compare it back to Grimaldo, who was the left wing back under Xabi Alonso's invincible Bayer Leverkusen team, Grimaldo's numbers were absolutely outrageous. 12 goals and 17 assists across all competitions in that season. Could Marc Cucurella have that kind of output? I'm not 100% convinced, if I'm completely honest, but he scored 7 goals last season, which was really, really good for a fullback in general, right? Especially when we're playing in a back 4, and his role wasn't necessarily to, find himself up there. But maybe that says that if he was put into this kind of attacking position like Grimaldo was, maybe we could expect to see more from him. Either way, Marc Cucurella is a keep. Tosin Adarabioyo is a sell. Not the absolute worst squad player to have around, but at the same time, the thing with Tosin Adarabioyo, we got him on a free. I think we'd get 20 million for him. That's pure profit. And we're going to need to sell players. This is going to be a little bit of a recurring theme with some of these players that maybe we could have kept around, but thinking realistically, we're going to have to let some players go in order to free up the squad cost ratio and also get some liquid money in the bank in order to fund new signings, which is going to be absolutely necessary. So for me, Tosin Adarabioyo, he gets cut for this one. And guys, if you have made it this far into today's episode of the Stamford Sync, please do me the distinct honour of liking, sharing and hyping the video, subscribe to the channel, or just roast me in the comments, whatever gets you through your day. Right, so moving on, more defenders. Benoit Badiashile is another sell, isn't he, at the end of the day? The thing about Benoit Badiashile, I think we paid 35 mil for him about 3-4 years ago now. He's been on the books for a long time. And he's still, he's 24, 25, so he was young when we bought him. He's still at good age now. There is potential there, but I just don't think that we need new centre-backs, don't we? And it's kind of like it was with the Tosin thing. Like, Benoit Badiashile has not proven that he's reliable enough, albeit he has had very good games. The game earlier this season against Liverpool in the first half, when Maresca was still here in particular, he was brilliant. So he can be a really good player, but I just don't think he's the level that we need him to be, and he would represent a profit if we sold him, because we've had him for a few years, amortisation, blah, 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 blah. But Benoit Badiashile for me is a sell, and I do not think Xabi Alonso would come in and be like, I've got to keep this guy. Levi Colwill, obviously a keep. Levi Colwill is build the defence around this guy. We've already seen in the 2 games that he's featured back in, obviously the Liverpool one in particular, where we got the draw quite recently, he is just the best defender we've got on our books. He's the most astute. He's got the best leadership qualities. He's easily the best passing defender that we have at the club right now as well. He's still very young. Levi Colwill can play the left centre-back position or the central centre-back position if it's a back 3, or obviously the left centre-back position in a back 2 as well, if that's what Xabi Alonso goes for. But either way, this is an easy one. Levi Colwill absolutely has to stay. Mamadou Sarr, I'm actually going to say keep, because we need squad depth. Mamadou Sarr has proved at Strasbourg that he's very, very capable, and next to Levi Colwill is probably currently the best passing centre-back that we've got on the books. It would be as a backup option, a rotational option for me. I don't see Mamadou Sarr storming into the first team, because I do expect us to buy at least 1 new centre-back, if not 2, to try and fight for that first team spot. Now, depending on, definitely keep him if we do go to a back 3, but even if we go to a back 2, I think he's probably still worth hanging on to. Next up, Yoro Hato, and that's easy for me. That's another keep. Yoro Hato is just so versatile and has proven towards the back end of this season that he can come in and get a job done. He's not super familiar with that left centre-back role, but he's been playing it really, really well. So in a back 3, he can play the left centre-back, he can play left wing-back. In a back 4, he can play left-back. Probably not a centre-back in a back 4, ideally, although he has been doing it recently. But he can also play in midfield, and as we saw in the League Cup earlier this season, he's got an absolute rocket of a shot on him. So I think he's very young, he's got loads of potential, he's very versatile. 100% keep him around. Trevor Chalobah, I think Xabi Alonso would probably want to keep Trevor Chalobah for the experience. He's an astute defender when he's put in the right position. He'd play quite well on the right of a back 3, I think, and does reasonably well on the right of a back 2 as well. The issue with Trevor Chalobah for me is his value. He's profitable. We'd probably sell Chalobah for 30, 40 mil, something like that, and that's bang, pure profit on the books because he's an academy player. But I think Xabi Alonso would probably want to keep him, and that is a good backup option at the end of the day. In an ideal world, he'd probably replace Tosin Adarabioyo and Benoit Badiashile as that backup rotational option. Now, the problem with that, after being our most used centre-back this season, does Trevor Chalobah want to stick around to be a backup option? That's the thing as well. So if we go out, Levi Colwill's back now, so if he can stay fit, obviously he gets in the team. We go out and buy a Van Heck or a Murillo or something like that, and then all of a sudden, Trevor Chalobah maybe not getting quite so many opportunities and not getting quite so many minutes. So does he then agitate and say, look, I'm not up for this bit part role compared to what I've been playing last season? So if he agitates for a move, they're not stopping him. I don't think we're going to fight to keep Trevor Chalobah if he agitates for a move because he's so valuable. And in that specific case, it would work for both parties. If you wanted to go, it works for Blueco and the ownership because we'd make a lot of money out of him to reinvest into the squad. But just as far as Xabi Alonso goes, I think you'd want to keep him. Reece James, it's a keep, isn't it? It's a keep. The question lies about where does Reece James play in the Xabi Alonso system. I think if we're at a back 4, Reece James can be the right back. That's fine because he's not quite expected to bomb on so much maybe if we're packing out the midfield. But if we do play that sort of 3 at the back Leverkusen style system, I'm not sure that he'd be able to keep up with the right wing back spot like Jeremy Frimpong did. Jeremy Frimpong also absolutely unbelievable numbers in that season, 14 goals and 10 assists. Do I think Reece James is capable of that? Yeah, of course, because Reece James is absolutely amazing. He's brilliant. And do I think Reece James is a better player than Frimpong? Yes, I do. But Frimpong definitely fits that right wing-back role a lot better than Reece James does because it involves so much athleticism, bombing up and down and spending a lot of time being really high doing attacks as well. Where Reece James does fit into that system, though, is in midfield or at right centre-back. 100%. And at the end of the day, he signed a 6-year deal, so he's not going anywhere. But I wouldn't even want him to. The only thing I'm not sure about is if we did play that 3-back system that Xabi Alonso played at Leverkusen, I don't think Reece James is really suited to that right wing-back role, but he would definitely be a good midfielder in that system, and he would 100% be a good right centre-back. So either way, he gets kept. Right, Malagusto. This has been a really interesting one. You guys have been talking about Malagusto in my comments quite a lot. I did a video the other day about Xabi Alonso and 3 different versions of the setup, the Bayer Leverkusen setup with the players we've got, plus the ones we've already got coming in, and then a kind of, one at the end that was like new signings and stuff. I omitted Malagusto from all 3 of those because I wasn't really sure. Now, what you obviously think instantly is Malagusto right wing back seems to fit his skill set really well. And while I agree with that, as I just mentioned about Jeremy Frimpong, 14 goals and 10 assists, do I think that Malagusto has got 14 goals and 10 assists in him? Absolutely not. No, I really, really don't. Malagusto, I think, would be amazing in Antonio Conte's 3-back system where he played the right wing back. You remember Victor Moses, right? And Victor Moses wasn't all about putting crosses in and scoring goals and stuff. It was just about running, controlling the pitch, making space, and just being a really athletic player. That's one of the things that he did so well. We didn't, you don't think back to that season and be like, do you remember all those screamers that Victor Moses scored? So in that kind of system, I think Malagusto works really well. But for Xabi Alonso's wing-back system, with, that really relied on to be attacking players, I'm not 100% sure. It's kind of a difficult one because I would lament the idea of selling Gusto because he's still really young and he's shown potential, but it's like, where does he fit in that system? So I'm going to say, tentatively, sell. And the reason for that is because the more I look into Xabi Alonso's system and the more I look at the players we've got, if we go for that but 3-back kind of system, which isn't a given, by the way, that's a caveat, it's not a given, he would want a right wing back that was definitely more capable of scoring and more capable of putting in numbers. It is a magic moment when Malagusto scores. I think he scored 2 goals for the club since he came, and he's taken lots of shots. Do you know what I mean? But I'm gonna say sell because I don't think we can convert him into that outright attacking player. And I don't know. Even if we play a back 4, like maybe would be a good right back in that system, but. Just be a backup to Reece James in that respect. And for me, like I say, even with Cucurella on the left wing back, when we talked about that, Cucurella has proven that he can score goals. And that was out of a position that wasn't actively trying to get him to do it all of the time. So do I think Malagusto's got that same thing in him? No, I don't. So for Xabi Alonso's system in particular, I'm actually going to say Malagusto gets sold. Wesley Fofana, on his best day is a keep, but the issue for me with Wesley Fofana, unfortunately, is attitude. And that seems ridiculous, doesn't it? Because the right manager can come in and get the best out of a player, of course he can, and change his mood a bit and turn him into like the best version of himself. And while I would like to see that, we've already seen that Chelsea are potentially looking to sell Wesley Fofana. There was a story last week about Barcelona being interested in him, and apparently we'd only be asking for 30 million euros. So look, that is going to be a loss on Wesley Fofana because he signed a really long deal and he's on really big wages. And he's been with us for a few seasons, but I think there's still more than 30 million euros worth left of Wesley Fofana on the books. So if we're at this moment already willing to sell Wesley Fofana at a loss, then it just shows that he just needs to go, doesn't it? Whether he does or not, obviously it all remains to be seen, but I think Xabi Alonso wouldn't maybe have a lot of choice in that one and probably would prefer to pick a new centre-back rather than look at Wesley Fofana and be like, that's my guy. I think that, Xabi Alonso wouldn't hate the idea of selling Wesley Fofana in order to bring someone in that suits his football a little bit more. Josh Achiampong, this one stings a little, but I think he needs a loan at this point. I absolutely love Josh Achiampong, and I think he could be a really big part of the future of our team. I think he's tailor-made for that right centre-back spot at Chelsea, but I think he needs game time. And looking at this season, he got sporadic game time last season and we were starting to get really excited about him. But the 2 managers that we've had, the 3 managers, including Callum McFarlane, just don't seem to rate him high enough to get him into the team. And that is the problem really for me. It's like, I want to see Josh Achiampong do well, but I think he needs to go and have a Levi Colwill season like he did at Brighton. He needs to go, in my head it's Crystal Palace. I don't know why it's always Crystal Palace, but if Josh Achiampong can go to Crystal Palace next season, obviously they're missing Gurhey, they could do with some youth and some vigour. They always kind of develop players pretty well. Trevor Chalobah had a good spell there. I think Josh Achiampong alone for me would be ideal for him because if he stays another season and doesn't get played, he's going to be looking to move. At this point, he'll be getting into his 20s and then all of a sudden it's not about like, I'll get in the Chelsea first team one day. It's like, I need to play football now. So for me, Josh Achiampong, I would loan him. And I think Xabi Alonso would probably sign off on that as well. Enzo Fernandez, really interesting one. I think it's a keep from Xabi Alonso. But the interesting thing about that is it would be a new role for Enzo Fernandez. I don't really see Enzo Fernandez as like a half-space, left-sided number 10 or a number 10 in general. I think we play him there at the moment kind of because we have to. Like, we've got so many winger injuries and, you know, injuries across the board and like attacking injuries and stuff. You know, we're putting Cole Palmer out on the right, which, you know, isn't necessarily his best position. I do think he plays his best football from the centre. But Enzo Fernandez, for me, I've always thought more of a deep line midfielder who is being pushed up to get into attacking positions. Xabi Alonso likes a deep lying distributor. You think Granit Xhaka is the comparison, is the example. Granit Xhaka scored 4 goals and got 2 assists in that entire title-winning season for Bayer Leverkusen and wasn't relied upon specifically to get attacking numbers, but he was relied on to be physical and to distribute from deep. And we know Enzo Fernandez is a really good passer. He does have a lot of those attributes. The weird thing, Enzo Fernandez has been one of our top scorers for the last couple of seasons, and every manager we have seems to prefer putting him more and more forward and getting him into those attacking positions. So I do think it would be a keep because I think that Xabi Alonso would see those Granit Xhaka-like qualities in Enzo Fernandez and try to convert him into that role. But whether it works or not remains to be seen. But I think it's a keep as long as he wants to stay and doesn't make more fluttery eyes at Real Madrid, of course. Dario Asugo, I think it'd need to be a loan. I do think he looks good. And, you know, preseason might change everything there. You never know. Dario Asugo looks like a reasonable backup to Moises Caicedo in the grand scheme of things. But also, we've got Valentin Barco coming in, which is, you know, I'm not putting those players in this list. And you also would have thought that Xabi Alonso would probably want some space to bring in a new midfielder, potentially one that, you know, whether it be a backup or someone he can work with. Dario Asugo has had that 1 wicket game against Hull, I think it was, in the FA Cup. He's obviously been injured a lot of this season, but I think he could really do with going out and getting some game time. Moving on to Andre Santos, I think he's a keep. Again, a bit of a weird one. He's like featured really prominently for spurts this season and then all of a sudden just like absolutely dipped out. But he can play the Enzo Fernandez role, he can play the Moises Caicedo role, albeit not as good as either of them, but I just think he's got legs, you know, he's athletic, he's versatile, and that's the kind of midfielder that you want in your rotation when it comes down to it. Moises Caicedo, absolutely a keep. I think Xabi Alonso would love Moises Caicedo. It's Palacio that kind of played that role for Bayer Leverkusen, and Moises Caicedo is on his day, one of the best number 6s in the world as of right now. He's still really young, he's got a couple of seasons of experience, so we could expect him to kick on. He's definitely been better towards the latter half of the season with keeping a lid on the fieriness that has got him as many yellow cards as he got this season, but I think his technical quality would absolutely sing to Xabi Alonso, and I think that's a really, really easy keep. I think Romeo Lavia is a keep as well, if I'm completely honest, and that is because everything I just said about Enzo Fernandez as a deep-lying distributor, that's literally Romeo Lavia's whole thing. The issue with Romeo Lavia has been injuries. He's been out for so long, and it is a worry, isn't it? It's like, can he stay fit? Can he stay fit? Is he going to stay fit? On the assumption that he can stay fit, I think Romeo Lavia is the perfect backup for whoever eventually ends up getting that deep-lying distributor role, right? We know that he's really good at passing, and he is definitely a deep player, you know, in his mindset. You see that whenever he plays. He doesn't bomb forward all the time and stuff. And I think Xabi Alonso would really, really like Romeo Lavia as long as he could stay fit. Pedro Neto, tough one with Pedro Neto because it kind of comes down to the formation, I think, at this point. If we play the back 3 system, I think Pedro Neto could probably do pretty well on that left side. Does Pedro Neto love the idea of being a left wing back, albeit in attack? He basically becomes that left winger again. I don't know. And also, Pedro Neto might end up being one of the players that we have to sell. I don't really see Pedro Neto in the half-space roles, like the Florian Wirtz and Jonas Hoffmann, for instance. I don't really see that happening as much because, you know, his qualities definitely seem to be more wide, don't they? Although he can cut in and score a banger every now and again, don't get me wrong. Pedro Neto... Do I think Xabi Alonso will want to keep him? Probably, yeah, but he probably would want to keep him. So I will say keep for this, but I have a feeling that Pedro Neto might be one of the guys that gets sacrificed in order to bring new players in. Liam Delap, this is a weird one because Liam Delap, profile-wise, is actually a lot closer to what Victor Boniface was in that Bayer Leverkusen team than anything that we've got at the moment. But 2 goals in 37, 38 games. I don't even know how long it is now. Liam Delap is a loan for me, or maybe a sale, to be honest. Like, you know, Newcastle have apparently been interested in him. I don't think Chelsea, you know, the news has been coming out saying Liam Delap wants to fight for his place, and that's fair enough, man. Like, I respect the hustle and everything, but we got hustled when we thought you'd score more than 2 goals in a whole season. So look, I like Liam Delap, and I do think that he will go on to be a reasonably good Premier League striker if he finds the right team. I just don't think we're that team. So it's a loan or a sell for me, actually, and I'm not even really sure either one, but either way, I think he would probably not stick around. I don't think Xabi Alonso would come in and look at his qualities and be like, I can definitely turn you into that striker, especially with the other guys that we've got coming in who are very far in front of him already. Cole Palmer, obviously it's a keep. I think Cole Palmer is tailor-made for that half-space role that Wiertz played under Bayer Leverkusen, albeit on the other side. Wiertz played from the left. Cole Palmer obviously favours the right. Cole Palmer's not a wing-back, and he's not a striker in that formation or anything. There is kind of only one role for Cole Palmer in that 3-back system, but also if Xabi Alonso does end up playing a 4 at the back and we do stick with the 4-2-3-1, he can play in the centre of attack. He can play on the right. I also threw out there a permutation where Omega and João Pedro play at the same time, with Omega playing up top and João Pedro in the left pocket space. But that also could be Cole Palmer playing in the 10 and João Pedro and Emmanuel Omega playing as 2 strikers. So there are permutations, even with the 3-back system, that Cole Palmer could still play in the middle and get a lot of freedom. Either way, he's an absolute keep. Jamie Gittins, I think, gets sold. Jamie Gittins is one of those players, because he's such a wingery winger. I think the only role for him in that 3-back system is at wing-back. I don't think we'll sell him. I think we spent too much money on him. I think he's been injured for most of the season as well. He didn't look great. He had spurts, didn't he? Like sometimes great looping assists and some really, really good play. He actually started to look really good when Liam Rosinia came in, playing off from the right and cutting in, and looks like a lot more of a player than he had done under Maresca. But I don't know. It's a weird one. And largely, again, with Jamie Gittins, it really depends on formation, I think. Because in Xabi Alonso's 3 at the back, there's not really a space for your archetypal winger, and that's basically what Jamie Gittins is. And would Jamie Gittins be okay? Like, could he be a Frimpong? That's the question we're asking here. It's not, could he play the Jonas Hoffmann or Florian Wirtz role? It's, could he play the Jeremy Frimpong role on the right-hand side and be a wing-back? Potentially, because if he's happy with being on the right, like I say, Frimpong got 14 goals and 10 assists. Really, really, really attacking player. So the wing-backs in Xabi's system aren't necessarily like the Victor Moses or the Marcos Alonso style wing-backs, do you know what I mean, that just cover width and stuff. Like, they're getting really involved in the attacks. So maybe Jamie Gittins could play on that side. Actually, do you know what? I think I've just talked myself into it. I'm going to say keep for Jamie Gittins, because maybe he could be converted into that role. You look at Jeremy Frimpong, and he's not an archetypal right wing back. He's definitely an attacking player. Maybe the same could be said of Jamie Gittins as well. João Pedro obviously is a keep. For me, the best striker we've had in like 10 years, basically. He's very close, actually, to outstripping Diego Costa's best season in a Chelsea shirt in terms of GA. So João Pedro, in and out, he's kind of bookended the season, hasn't he, really? Started really well, disappeared in the middle, and then has come back really well at the end. Ultimately, I think has probably been our best player of the season. I'd be really surprised to see anyone else other than João Pedro get player of the season at this point. João Pedro can play as a striker. He could also play in that Jonas Hoffmann role, that half-space kind of role. And also, like I mentioned, with Emmanuel Omega coming in, they could both play up top together with Cole Palmer playing in the centre of attack and floating around behind them. And that could be really, really interesting. But João Pedro easily is a keep. Mark Yu, it pains me, but it's a sell, and it's basically because we got him for nothing. I think we'd get 15 to 20 mil for him right now, and we need to start making money in order to get new players on the books, right? The money's got to come from somewhere. We need to offset some of the sales we get without going to 100%. We are a sell to buy club as of right now. And Mark Yu, I just think, look, maybe Xabi Alonso comes in and looks at him, his fellow Spaniard, and is just like, right, I've got you. I know exactly what to do with you. And maybe he turns Mark Yu into an absolute baller. Who knows? But I think just looking at him right now, his attributes are obviously really interesting, like loads of energy, loads of pace, and a pressing monster, which Xabi Alonso will love because obviously the high press. But I just think, like I say, we've got Omega coming in. Nicholas Jackson's coming back. Is there a chance for him to get in the squad? Who knows? I just think Mark Yu gets sold because he represents such a good profit at the moment. Esteval Willian, obviously a keep. Esteval is going to be one of the players that the team gets built around in the future. Whether that be next season or not, I don't know. But he would definitely do well in either of those half-space roles behind the striker in Xabi Alonso's back 3. And he's just an absolutely phenomenal, versatile player. Really, really easy keep for me. I'm not going to talk about him too much because I think all of us know that Esteval Willian is sticking around for the long term. Alejandro Garnacho gets sold for me, I think, personally. I think we need a better option. We need to buy a new attacking option, don't we? A good, solid, new, strong attacking option, whether that be for the 3 at the back, whether it be we do back four and we keep wingers, Alejandro Garnacho has had a lot of opportunities this season and unfortunately is not up to the cut. And we need someone new. So Alejandro Garnacho, because we got him for reasonably cheap, we would probably at the very least break even on him. And obviously that frees up squad cost ratio in order to bring new guys in. So for me, Alejandro Garnacho gets sold. And I don't necessarily think Xabi Alonso would fight to keep him. And Mykhailo Mudryk. Whenever I do these keep, loan or sell lists, Mykhailo Mudryk is just there in last season's shirt. He just goes, doesn't he? I mean, well, can we even tell him? This is the thing, is like, he's not going to touch a squad. He's banned from football for 4 years. There's an appeal at the moment. I don't think we can sell Mykhailo Mudryk. I'm only even talking about him because he's on the list, but it doesn't even matter. It's not, Xabi Alonso, if he comes in, isn't coming in being like, Mykhailo Mudryk, let's see what we can do with him in 4 years' time. So that just is what it is, isn't it? So guys, that's it. That is my keep, loan or sell pertaining to Xabi Alonso if he comes in. What do you think? Have I been too harsh or not harsh enough? Do you think that it's likely that we will play that 3 at the back system? Because that's mostly what's been running through my head, but ultimately I do know also that might not be the case. Do you think that Mark Hughes should stick around? Do you think Liam Delap deserves another chance? Timestamp any of the guys that you want to talk about and we'll get into it in the comments. Nice one, guys. I hope you all have an absolutely wicked day and I'll catch up with you very, very soon. Take it easy. Peace.